The official cast for Avengers Doomsday has been revealed at a Disney event in Italy. And as it stands right now, it looks like the biggest collection of characters you probably don't give a shit about ever assembled. Let's discuss.
Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Avengers Doomsday is scheduled to be released a little over a year from now. And it's very clear from what we know about the film so far that Marvel is throwing all of their gimmicks into one basket in an effort to try to reignite interest in the MCU. But the real question is, and has always been, what happens to the MCU when they can no longer rely on Easter eggs, cameos, and nostalgia bait to sell a movie? They are clearly going to be leaning on these things moving forward because they are desperate after a string of movies about characters nobody cares about underperformed.
You're pathetically predictable.
Marvel's philosophy is, when in doubt, just go back to what worked before. And you know what? They might even fool some people into believing that Marvel is back. And you know what? That is exactly what the early reactions for this film are going to tell us. Because we've seen this same thing happen time and time again. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that Marvel never left. And I do not say that as a way of proclaiming that Marvel has been consistently great creatively in any way. I say that because Marvel has been consistently bad creatively for some time now, and I expect Avengers Doomsday to be a culmination of that. Now, we already know that they learned all the wrong lessons from the success of No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. And this will lead them to absolutely double down on everything that made those movies unremarkable to people like myself.
Something very familiar about all this.
Do you really need any proof that nothing has changed from a creative standpoint as it pertains to the way that Marvel Studios creates films? Their filmmaking process is incredibly flawed, and that usually reflects in the final product. Kevin Feige has told us all that he had an epiphany, and he is now going for a quality over quantity approach. Yet we have actual people involved with making this movie confirming publicly that the movie was initially being shot without even having a finished script. With star Alan Cummings saying, "Oh yeah, we eventually saw a script, but it took a while." Doesn't really sound like a whole lot has changed over at Marvel Studios when it comes to their creative process, but I digress. The truth is that every bit of information that we've received so far about this movie has been a massive red flag. Everything from the Robert Downey Jr. announcement to the obnoxiously long chair reveal fiasco, all the way down to Marvel Studios crawling back to the Russo brothers, of all people, who have proven to not be able to do anything of relevance without the Marvel machine behind them.
I want you to put the word out there that we back up.
But keep telling me that these guys are cinematic geniuses because they made Infinity War and Endgame. Those movies were pretty much 90% hype, and when the hype wears off, you tell me what we're left with. We are left with the character assassinations of both Hulk and Thor, perhaps. And now the Russos are going to ruin the two things that they got right in Endgame, that being the proper send-off for Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Because as we can all pretty much assume by now, both men will be back for Doomsday in some capacity. Because put quite simply, Marvel has backed themselves into a corner, and now they are going to fall back on what worked before because they are out of new ideas.
Do the same thing as last time. Everyone's happy.
In addition to the returns of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, we now have a confirmed cast list for Doomsday for everyone to sink their teeth into. A cast of characters that is basically made up of 4 teams, I guess 5 if you count the Wakandans. We have the Fantastic Four, the Thunderbolts, Captain America's team, and what basically amounts to the Fox X-Men team. Now, the Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts rosters are pretty self-explanatory. But based on the box office results for both of those films just this year, I don't think a lot of people are clamoring to see any of these characters ever again. And that's coming from someone who actually enjoyed Fantastic Four for what it was. And then we have Sam Wilson's Avengers team, which consists of Thor, Ant-Man, Loki, Shang-Chi, and the new Falcon. Quite possibly one of the weakest Avengers rosters ever assembled. How we went from Captain America, Iron Man, and Hulk to this has to be one of the biggest cinematic downgrades in history.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Does anyone really give a about any of these characters outside of maybe Thor and Loki? And even Thor is questionable at this point, since Marvel Studios let Taika Waititi get a hold of him. It's almost as if you should go out of your way to protect the established characters you have and not let a troll with a budget turn them into a joke. And then we have the Fox X-Men team, which consists of Professor X, Mystique, Gambit, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Beast, and Magneto. All played by their original older actors and not the first class younger cast. And if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you already know how I feel about this. I think Disney is lazy for using them, and I think some MCU fans who are actually excited for them to be included are in fact hypocrites.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And that's because for years I was told that the Fox X-Men movies were a joke by MCU fans. And to be fair, some of them were. But I personally preferred the best of the Fox X-Men movies over the best that the MCU had to offer every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Do I like seeing these characters hoard out by Disney again, only probably to be disrespected and underutilized again? No, I do not. But hey, at least we'll get to see James Marsden's Cyclops in the blue and yellow suit because that's all that really matters, right? Surface level shit. Would I love to see that Cyclops used better than he was used in the Fox X-Men movies? Of course. Any self-respecting X-Men fan would feel that way. Do I have confidence in Marvel Studios and the Russo brothers to do that in a satisfying way?
Absolutely fucking not.
They also announced that Shuri, M'Baku, and Namor will be in the film as well. But unless there's a T'Challa recast coming, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I don't really care much about who's coming out of Wakanda. Now this is being advertised as the full cast, but we all know the truth, don't we? This is probably not the full cast at all. We all know that there will be surprises because that's pretty much the only reason that people are going to show up for this movie. There was a supposed leaked image floating around on X a couple of days ago, and some people were disputing whether or not it was AI generated or not. It featured Hugh Jackman and Tobey Maguire behind the scenes for Avengers Doomsday. Now I wouldn't put it past Disney to be putting out fake AI images themselves, just to drum up some kind of hype for this movie? Here's the reality of the situation. An image like this, if it was put out 20 years ago, probably would have floored me. They are my personal childhood, two definitive actors in the roles of Spider-Man and Wolverine, and I always wanted to see them on screen together. But again, that's 20 years ago. If I see an image like this in 2025, I literally feel nothing because I know it's going to amount to nothing. The on-screen meeting that I always dreamed of that is now happening in the present day will most likely be unsatisfying, unimaginative, and probably quippy with Disney and Marvel Studios at the helm. These films and team-ups that once felt like an event feel like lazy, shallow gimmicks now, and I truly hate that I feel that way. It's unfortunate what the MCU has done to this genre.
He's out of line, but he's right.
The Avengers Doomsday trailer is reportedly playing in front of Avatar 3, and we already have some shill reactions creeping in. The biggest shill of them all had this to say about the trailer. I can't stop thinking about this trailer. Robert Downey Jr. is the GOAT of Marvel cinema. He commanded every single scene as Tony Stark, and now he'll take over even more so as the greatest Marvel villain ever. Let me guess, Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom is going to be a generational villain. Stop me if you've heard this before. This person is kind of suggesting that Robert Downey Jr.'s work as Doom may even trump his work as Iron Man, and that's quite the statement being made about one of the most questionable casting decisions in cinematic history. Does Robert Downey Jr. have the acting talent to make this work? Absolutely, that is undeniable. Will the material be there and be strong enough for him to springboard off of and become a memorable villain? That remains to be seen. But once again, similar to this reaction, I'm sure early reactions for Avengers Doomsday will tell you that he is the greatest Marvel villain of all time. Or at least the greatest Marvel villain since the last Marvel villain. Which is not the flex that some people think it is, considering that Marvel Studios is notoriously bad at crafting villains not named Loki, Killmonger, and Thanos. Bottom line, it feels like the fix is already in. It feels like the hype machine is already working overtime. The question is, do you buy into it, or is it more manufactured nonsense to prop up a subpar movie that can't stand on its own?
Let's go!
Y'all be cool. Right on.